John, we return now to our top story. You talked about it earlier. Details of retaliation emerging in the VA scandal in that nighttime hearing last night on Capitol Hill in Washington. With all the details, the man who presided over that hearing, the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, Congressman Jeff Miller, a Republican from Florida. Jeff, we thank you for calling in to America's Forum this morning.
Hey, JD, it's a pleasure to be with you. As I was sitting there last night about the witching hour of midnight, thinking about the hearings that were held throughout the Capitol complex by candlelight, last night would have been the perfect opportunity.
Well, but you, to continue with the metaphor, you really took out the bright lights, the spotlights, to focus on retaliation. That's what we heard about. After the testimony last night, are you convinced that retaliation against whistleblowers has become part of the culture at the Veterans Administration?
Without question, it's been a part of the culture for many, many years. That's been part of the reason it's been so difficult to uncover the corruption that we've finally been able to find. It's because they have fudged numbers, hid numbers, manipulated books. People have tried to come forward time and time again. They keep getting pushed back to their supervisors, and then their supervisors retaliate against them by demoting them, putting them in positions, giving them the midnight shift. And we had VA sitting there. They were on the second panel, and rightfully so. They showed great emotion, the VA did, as to what they heard. But this is not something that just began yesterday. It's been going on for a long time.
So if it is interwoven into the culture of the Veterans Administration, Jeff, how do you change that culture?
You have to give the secretary the ability to discipline and hold people accountable. Until you fire somebody, until somebody goes to jail for some of the fraud that's been perpetrated on our veterans, people think they can get away with anything. And that's the unfortunate thing. It has just bred more corruption within inside the system. The bad thing is the hundreds of thousands of good employees that go to work every single day to serve the veterans and not themselves are getting painted with the same brush that these people that are corrupt. And as the president has said, the corrosive culture, it's got to stop. It's got to stop now. And the only way to begin the process of rebuilding the VA into a agency that can serve the veterans is to root this corruption out at the very core.
Now, Jeff, when you talked about the ability to go in and fire people, obviously you had a piece of legislation that sailed through the House. Marco Rubio had legislation identical, if I'm not mistaken, in the Senate that was stopped. Bernie Sanders, the self-identified socialist who caucuses with the Democrats, the senator from Vermont, had a different bill, and at the 11th hour, John McCain of Arizona stepped in for a, quote, compromise. The Senate bill, does it still have the protections for union members? In other words, is the Senate bill a fig leaf compared to the bill you got passed through the House?
It is, and what we're talking about is 450 of the top people at VA that are not political appointees. There are very few political appointees within 330,000. Those are the people that you can fire at will. What our bill basically says, you get fired, you're gone. What the Sanders bill does, and it's in their compromise package, is it gives them a month to be able to go in and appeal the firing. I don't think we need that protection in there. I think people need to be gone the minute that they are proven to have done something that is not appropriate or not done their job. They should have the same ability to fire as you and I did when you were a member of Congress. If you found a staffer that wasn't doing the job or was treating somebody poorly, you had the ability to fire them. The unfortunate thing is Secretary Shinseki is a good man. He had people that lied to him. He's gone. The people that lied to him are still on the payroll.
Jeff, let's go back to last night's hearing where Representative Julia Brownley asked Dr. Christian Head specifically about retaliation and what he expects the reaction to be when he returns to work after testifying last night. Here's what Dr. Head had to say.
I'm not sure. I do fear retaliation. But I also know this was the right thing to do. And more importantly, I think my veterans that I care for support me.
Dr. Head went on to say he wants to retire as a VA doctor. Is this a uniform sentiment that you heard from all that testified last night?
Yeah, all the whistleblowers that spoke last night did, in fact, talk about retaliation. Now, I'm sure there are whistleblowers that have come forward in the past and have not been retaliated against. But very clearly what VA does is they begin a whisper campaign against these people that come forward and they say they're disgruntled because they didn't get a bonus or they didn't get a particular promotion that they wanted. And they're coming forward for some reason other than the fact that they're trying to protect veterans. And that's what those 5 individuals did, or 4 individuals. We had a 5th that was supposed to come last night. We ended up canceling them from the appearance. But, you know, for them to come forward in such a public forum is a big, big deal because, you know, they're still protected as whistleblowers, but, you know, they're publicly identified now. And we gave them our assurances that should anybody try to bring retribution upon them, that, you know, they should contact our office. The Office of Special Counsel said the exact same thing. She said, if you have anybody that brings retribution against you, you should contact us. These people are really the heroes in this process, like Dr. Foote, who actually brought this thing to a head in Phoenix. And, of course, the VA wanted to say that it was a very isolated incident. The fact is it's pervasive throughout the whole entire agency, and it has to be stopped now.
Well, Congressman John Bachman jumping in here, and I wanted to jump in on something that Dr. Jose Matthews mentioned. He urged the committee to take strong action, and just a few moments ago you mentioned the possibility of jail time. Would that be your recommendation from what you're learning so far, that the only way you can really send a clear message here is if somebody goes to jail?
Absolutely. I mean, manipulation of records for personal gain is illegal, and people have to be held accountable. And until you send that message, and the Inspector General said the exact same thing in a hearing a few weeks ago, until somebody goes to jail or loses their job, you know, you're not going to be able to send the message that will go be the shot heard around the agency. Once that starts happening, people will start doing the right thing.
Jeff, let me ask you about something else. It's kind of curious. I don't often hear Nancy Pelosi talk about committee spending, especially not in association with the Veterans Affairs Committee. But she's saying, well, gee, the House committee only gets $3 million in an annual appropriation, and the Select Committee on Benghazi that's been appointed is going to get $3.3 million. She's saying that's wrong. Can you take us through the funding? Do you have any problems with the $3.3 million that Trey Gowdy has requested for the Select Committee on Benghazi?
You got to remember what Trey Gowdy is going to be doing is hiring a number of investigators and doing substantial amount of travel in order to get to the bottom of the Benghazi issue. We have been able, with the budget that the VA committee has, been able to uncover a tremendous amount of information with the help of a lot of whistleblowers. One of the things, though, that I have raised as an issue since I became the chairman 3.5 years ago is that the Department of Veterans Affairs actually pays for our travel when we go visit a hospital. So if I go, they know I'm coming. We have a very small travel budget within the committee, and that's the budget that we use to make the surprise visits and inspection by committee members and staff, so they don't know that we're coming. So part of what I would suspect that you're going to see in the Benghazi committee is, in fact, travel and, of course, investigators. Speaker Boehner has allowed us to hire some more investigators in our oversight and investigation side, both on the Republican and the Democrat side. And I would say this, under a very small budget, we've been able to make a big difference.
So we appreciate that note on housekeeping and budgeting within the House of Representatives. And as always, Jeff Miller, we thank you for your update from the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. This retribution has got to stop in the VA.
I mean, as much as we've heard about it in the prospect of the retribution, to hear the whistleblowers speak the words last night, really chilling.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the Middle East and what is transpiring there. Stay tuned.